Sometimes the threads of fate are woven in ways we could never predict. A single moment, a single act of kindness can change not just the course of one life, but two. This is the story of Brian, a man whose heart had been shattered by unimaginable loss, and Andrea, a little girl who had known only rejection, until their paths crossed and the true meaning of family was rewritten. Brian had once imagined a life filled with laughter, love, and the gentle chaos of family. He was a devoted husband and a proud father. But one rainy night, a tragic accident stole away his wife and young daughter, leaving him alone in a house that echoed with memories. The silence was unbearable, and the pain relentless. For months, Brian drifted through his days, haunted by what he had lost, trying to find purpose in a world that seemed so cruelly emptied. It was on a cold December evening 9 years ago that Brian's life took a turn he never expected. His phone rang, a social worker on the other end, voice urgent yet hopeful. There was a little girl, Andrea, who desperately needed a place to stay. Just for the night, they said. She had special needs and had been passed from one family to another, rejected by 15 families in total. No one seemed willing to take her in, even temporarily. Brian hesitated, feeling the weight of his own brokenness, but something stirred within him. He remembered his daughter's smile, the warmth of her tiny hand in his. How could he turn away a child in need? He agreed, telling himself it was just for one night. When Andrea arrived, she was quiet, her big brown eyes wary and tired. She clutched a small, worn teddy bear, the only companion she seemed to trust. Brian greeted her gently, offering hot cocoa and a blanket, trying to hide his nerves. That night, he sat outside her room, listening as she hummed softly to herself, unable to sleep in a strange new place. He realized then how truly alone she must have felt, tossed from home to home, never sure if she'd be wanted or loved. The next morning, Brian made pancakes, his daughter's favorite. Andrea's eyes lit up at the sight, and for the first time, he saw a flicker of hope in her expression. She whispered a shy thank you, and Brian felt a warmth he hadn't known in years. One night became 2, then a week, then a month. Andrea's presence began to soften the edges of Brian's grief. Her laughter, hesitant at first, began to fill the house, weaving light into the spaces that had long been dark. Andrea's special needs required patience, understanding, and a kind of love that could not be rushed. Brian learned to listen, to slow down, to celebrate small victories. He saw how brave she was, how hard she tried to fit into a world that seemed determined to push her away. Soon, the thought of saying goodbye became unbearable. Brian realized he didn't want to be her temporary shelter. He wanted to be her forever home. The adoption process was long and challenging. There were questions, evaluations, and moments of doubt. But through it all, Brian showed up, day after day, for Andrea. He fought for her, advocated for her, and promised her that she would never be alone again. When the adoption was finally approved, Brian wept tears of both joy and relief. Andrea was his daughter now, not by blood, but by choice and by love. Years passed, and the bond between Brian and Andrea grew stronger. Together, they navigated the ups and downs of life. Andrea flourished in her new home, her confidence blooming with every passing year. Brian found healing in fatherhood, rediscovering joy through Andrea's eyes. They celebrated birthdays and holidays, created new traditions, and filled their home with memories that were entirely their own. But fate had one more twist in store. 9 years after that fateful night, Brian received an unexpected phone call. The voice on the other end was from a law firm. They asked if he was the legal guardian of Andrea. Confused and a little anxious, Brian confirmed that he was. The woman explained that Andrea's biological mother, a wealthy businesswoman, had recently passed away. Though she had been unable to care for Andrea herself, she had never forgotten her. In her will, she left Andrea not only a heartfelt letter, but also a substantial inheritance, enough to change their lives forever. Brian was stunned. For years, he had worked tirelessly to provide Andrea with everything she needed, sometimes sacrificing his own comfort to make sure she had the best opportunities. The thought that Andrea was now the beneficiary of a millionaire's legacy felt surreal. But as he read the letter from Andrea's biological mother, he understood. The woman had loved Andrea from afar, and though circumstances had kept them apart, she wanted to ensure her daughter's future would be secure. When Brian told Andrea the news, she was overwhelmed, not by the money, but by the revelation that her mother had cared for her all along. Together, they mourned the loss of a woman Andrea had never known, and honored her memory by using the inheritance to build a brighter future. Not just for themselves, but for others as well. They established a scholarship fund for children with special needs, determined to give hope to those who, like Andrea, had felt unwanted and alone. Brian and Andrea volunteered at local shelters, sharing their story and reminding others that kindness has the power to transform lives in ways we can't always imagine. The story of Brian and Andrea is not just about luck or unexpected fortune. It is about the courage to open one's heart, even when it has been broken. It's about the resilience of the human spirit and the profound impact of unconditional love. There are moments in life when we stand at the crossroads between comfort and compassion. For Brian, the decision to take in Andrea, even for just one night, was an act of faith, a leap into the unknown. He could not have known that by saying yes, he would find healing, joy, and a renewed sense of purpose. Nor could he have imagined that Andrea, the little girl who had been rejected so many times, would not only become his daughter, but also carry a legacy of love and generosity that would touch countless lives. Their journey reminds us that family is not defined by blood or circumstance, but by the bonds we choose to forge. It is shaped by the moments when we show up for each other, when we choose empathy over indifference, and when we believe in the possibility of new beginnings, no matter how unlikely they may seem. As Brian watched Andrea grow into a confident, compassionate young woman, he realized that the greatest gift he had given her was not a home, but the unwavering promise that she would always be loved. And in turn, Andrea gave Brian a second chance at fatherhood, teaching him that even in the aftermath of loss, life can offer unexpected blessings. The news of Andrea's inheritance brought comfort and security, but it was never the driving force behind their happiness. Their true riches lay in the trust they had built, the laughter they shared, and the hope they inspired in others. Together, they learned that every act of kindness, no matter how small, has the power to ripple outward, touching lives in ways we may never fully understand. In a world that often measures success in material terms, Brian and Andrea's story is a powerful reminder that the greatest wealth comes from the love we give and receive. Compassion, empathy, and the willingness to take a chance on someone in need. These are the values that create families, heal wounds, and change destinies. So the next time you find yourself at a crossroads, wondering whether you have anything left to give, remember Brian and Andrea. Remember that sometimes the smallest act of kindness can open the door to a future brighter than you ever imagined. And remember that love, in all its forms, is the most precious gift of all. Their story continues to inspire those who hear it, a testament to the enduring power of hope and the transformative magic of opening one's heart. Brian's journey from grief to gratitude and Andrea's transformation from rejection to acceptance show us that even the most broken hearts can find their way back to joy. As Andrea prepares to use her inheritance to help others, she carries with her the lessons her father taught her: to be brave in the face of uncertainty, to show kindness without expectation, and to believe that every person deserves a place to belong. Her life, once marked by loss and rejection, is now a beacon of hope for children everywhere who are still waiting for someone to say yes. And Brian, once consumed by sorrow, has rediscovered the beauty of fatherhood. He knows that he can never replace what he lost, but he also knows that love is infinite. There is always enough to share, enough to heal, enough to begin again. Their lives are forever changed, not by the inheritance, but by the choice to love and be loved. It is a story that reminds us all, when we open our doors to those in need, we may find that the greatest miracles happen not in grand gestures, but in the quiet, everyday acts of compassion that bind us together as family. In the end, Brian and Andrea's journey is not just their own. It belongs to everyone who has ever dared to hope, to care, and to believe in the extraordinary power of love. And so, their story becomes a part of all of us, a gentle reminder that even in the darkest of times, light can find its way in. All it takes is the courage to say yes, and the faith to let love lead the way.